It was June 19th, 1865 that we was
The
named
Blue
free.
Bellies done told us that we is
We owned
free.
a large cotton plantation right down on the Colorado
Master
River.
Davis, he didn't want us to be free.
Master Burleson bought both of us because he was a good man. I was worked harder since after freedom than I ever worked before freedom.
I've been through the toughs.
My name before I was married was Sally Waddles, and I was born near Austin. I'll be 83 this coming August, if I live to see it. Mother's name was Phyllis Waddles, and she belonged to Master Waddles. My father was Sam Waddles, and he helped to haul the limestones for the old Capitol here in Austin. He was 100 years old or more when he died. Now, one of my own sisters was sold to Colonel Banks at Weberville, near Austin, for about $1,500. When once they could have got about $800 for me, but my mistress wouldn't sell me. I can tell you something about how slaves got married in the early days. If a woman belonged to a certain family, the man she was in love with went to ask the master and mistress if they could marry. Now, if the master said the man could marry his slave, he had to come to his sweetheart's cabin, and there would be a broomstick across the woman's door entrance, and he had to jump over it. And that act made him man and wife. After that, he was allowed to come and see his wife every Thursday and Saturday. After freedom, my father left my mother and her 6 children and went to live with a younger woman up in Williamson County. There wasn't no free schools up there, and I didn't get no chance to learn anything. I remember how one day we was herded into the kitchen. My mistress, Harriet, she was reading a newspaper. She told us that we was free as she. Then she said, but I hate those goddamn Blue Bellies. Well, I walked up to Mother, tugged on her apron, and asked, well, Mother, what's a Blue Belly? She whispered, they is Yankees, and they is in Austin. It takes a little maturity not to get so angry and not to get so mad either, to feel that my people were done this way. She's like one of our heroes, that she could live to tell those stories to us and let us know that this is what happened, and this is what we have gone through. And it's still a struggle of what we have to go through, even to this day. But it lets you appreciate Miss Sally.
My name is William Owens, and I'm told that I'm 86 years old. I can't have no birthdays, though, because I was never told on what day and month I was born. When I was a little boy, I had to pack water to the field hands. I carried one large bucket at a time on my head. Jacob Owens was my papa's name. Papa was what you would call a driver on Massa John Davis's large sugar plantation. This plantation, I remember, was at Bayou Teche, Jefferson Parish, Louisiana. I still remember. how them slaves would sing out some sort of words, and the overseer never could understand what they meant. They'd sing out, "Wait for the wagon, it'll be home after a while. Wait for the wagon, it'll be home after a while." The overseer, he just couldn't make out what was meant. Because you see, there was a meaning in the back of that. It meant that freedom was soon coming for all the slaves. About at the time of the breakup, Master Davis, he didn't want us to be free. So he brought all his 80 slaves on down to Texas. We was brought to Texas by boat, but I don't know just where we landed. Then we was brought up to Austin, where Master Davis rented a flour mill on the Colorado River right here in Austin. You can still see the rocks going across the river where the flour mill was, out in East Austin. Master Davis, then he set us free. We started out to do just any kind of work because our master, he never even gave us a shirt. When I was 21 years old, I married my first wife. She was Katie Wheat. We had 18 children. 7 of them still living, 5 boys and 2 girls. I lived with Katie for 53 years. Slavery was bad, but somehow they always found something to hold on to. And the song, the wagon will be here in a little while. No matter how bad it was, and it was bad, no movie, no TV show can ever help us understand how bad it was, but they still had hope, and I think that having hope is very important for us.
Another man done gone, another man done gone from the county farm, another man done
Way back yonder, my name was Mary Ann Burleson. I was born in Louisiana. I was anywhere from 97 to 102 years old. I know it was told that I was brought to Texas when I was 18 months old. A Mr. Turner sold me and Mama. Master Burleson bought both of us because he was a good man and didn't believe in separating a child from his mammy. I do think that man is gone to heaven. When I growed up, it was my job to wet nurse Ruth Burleson. There wasn't nothing wrong with him, but his mama just didn't have enough milk for him. It was during cotton picking that I learned to count a little. I picked my cotton, brought it to the wagon, and listened to him counting on the scales. Pretty soon I could have counted my own cotton. Master Burleson was good to us. That he never had just plain cabins for us. No, he had lumber hauled up from Bastrop pineries, and he built us slave good wood dwellings. Master Burleson had his plantation on Rogers Hill, east of Austin. I seen many an Injun. I seen them in droves. Them Indians never bothered us. There was this one Injun whose name was Placido. Placido and his son would come on down to Master Burleson's place, and old master would give them plenty of food. I got my pension for 6 months, and I only got $7 a month. I don't get no pension now. I know this much. I was worked harder since after freedom than I ever worked before freedom.
This is very dear to me. All of the narratives are, because I've done some tracing of my own family, and traced to where my family, my ancestors were slaves in Texas. And so this, I really jumped at the opportunity to do this. I appreciate this. I appreciate that someone was able to get this information from these elders.
That African word Samkofa, which means looking at our past, looking at where and evaluating what has gone on, and then moving into the future. And I think there's really what we see here is stuff that we really need to go through again because it's very important to us growth as people. I was born on March the 4th, 1857, on the Jack Hamilton Place, east of Austin. The folks called me Jim, but my name is James Grumbles. Before freedom come, a law was passed that all the niggers that was called free niggers had to choose someone for a guardian, or else he had to leave the state. The white folks said that the free niggers was ruining the other slaves. Now, Mammy was called a free woman by her master. Master Jack Hamilton brought her to Texas from Randolph County, Alabama. Now, Mammy was free, so when they passed a law that against the free niggers, she was put to jail in Austin until she could choose a guardian. This jail had a 2-story rock building near to where Caliso's Lumber Company is now, over on East 2nd Street, near the Colorado River. Mammy chose Aaron Burleson as her guardian. He had a large cotton plantation out where what is now the New State Feeble-Minded School, up at Rogers Hill, Travis County. Now, Master Burleson had about 25 slaves, and I think he thought more of his slaves than most anyone I ever saw. We went fishing most of the time. We was on the banks of the Colorado River, and that river was full of alligators. You ought to stay away from that river, Mammy would say. Them alligators ought to knock you in, you trifling scoundrel, you. See, I'm the boy that carried the news from Master Burleson's to the niggers down in the quarters, telling all the adult slaves that they was wanted at the big house. Now, he didn't read and read a paper and said that all of us was free and that we could leave and go where we wanted to, or they could stay right on the place and work. Well, some of the folks were so glad they cried. Others laughed, and some of them was just plain lost and didn't know what to do. And then I could help the roadbed for the old HS&TC Railroad. The first train didn't come in about 1871. I liked that work very much. 50 cents a day was charged for room and board, but I didn't mind it because we got good eats and plenty of it. And there was no working on Sundays.
Before I started reading this and trying to get in character, I kind of whispered a little prayer that I would do her justice, that as an actress, I would tell her story well, even though it was just a piece of her story. It's such a treasure just to have even that little piece of someone's life. Before I was married, I was Sally Burdett. The white folks tell me that I was born about 81 years ago. I recognize that old. I don't know. I was born on Master Mike Burdett's cotton plantation at Burdett Prairie near Austin. Master Bird had an overseer. He sure was rough. I think that his name was Beeble. My sister Molly was a weaver at the loom, and at one time she didn't get the amount she had to get for the day. And she was tied up to a sitting lack form. She was whooped pretty bad. She had stripes all over her shoulders. There was a whole row of log cabins near the big house. The cabins were the logs, and the roof was made of clapboard. The cabins was without windows or loops, and the only opening was the door. Each cabin had a dirt floor. Wasn't any better than a cone crib. Master Bird would allow us children to come up to the big house at night, and his children would learn us our ABCs. But I can't read or write to this day, because I just never did catch on. All I can do is make a cross for my name. It was June 19th, 1865 that we was made free. I remember how Master Bird had told us that if we stayed on his place and gathered the crops and stayed till Christmas, he would give each of us a free eggnog. We never got no free eggnog before, so it sounded pretty good. We stayed on, gathered the crops. But that eggnog made me sick. I ain't never tasted the stuff since.
My pappy's name was Hal Mason. He took that name because he was once owned by a Mason. His mother master was Jess Burdett. I mean, he owned a large cotton plantation right down on the Colorado River, about 10 miles east of Austin. It was a place called Hornsby Bend. Master Burdett could have been better, and he could have been worse. I mean, he did whoop his slaves at times. And Pappy was born in Tennessee, and he was brought to Texas when he was only a little boy. And Pappy was a great hand for parades for the celebration of Juneteenth. Sweet, gentle old Mamie. I was only about 8 years old when she died. Next morning, I was crying. Master Burnett was a mean man, and he asked me, "What you crying for?" I said, "Nobody won't give me no breakfast." Master Burnett wasn't good enough to tell me to come up to the house to get something to eat. I mean, Burnett was so mean that after slavery, he begrudged his servants of their freedom. The little village of Del Valley was just on the other side of the river. I mean, Pappy used to swim that river. Oh, he was a good swimmer, too. I mean, he'd take off the few clothes he had on and tie them around his head and start swimming across. He loved a girl on the other side over there. Yeah, and this was during slavery, and Mamie was still living. You see, marriage in those days was a lot different than it is now. While some of them slaves were bred just like horses. Being a native Austinite, being born and raised here, it was fascinating, to me to be able to read this stuff and be exposed to it, realizing that, this actually happened, here in my home city, in my home state.
I was born up in Williamson County, but I don't remember the master's name. My papa and mammy belonged to a lot of different people, and I reckon that's where we got the name of Slaughter. You know how people done in them days. Slaves was just sold like cattle. Master Pratt Washington never did care if we held night school in our cabins. But when we was in the fields, he wanted us to work. But George, his boy, went out in the field and would try to learn us our ABCs. Right out in the fields. The workers would watch out for the coming of the master, Washington, and when they saw him riding down the hill toward the fields, they would start singing out, "Old hog round the bench, old hog round the bench." That was the signal. And then they would start working like they had been working all the time. One day, I remember seeing the blue bellies going over the fields. There was the Yankees coming, Yankee soldiers. Then all of the slaves got to saying, "We is free. We is now free. The blue bellies done told us that we is free." I've been married 3 times, and I was still in my teens. I got married the first time. My first husband's name was Peter Collinsworth. And we had a home up near the old Rab place up at Barton Springs at Austin. We rented from the Rabs. One day in April 1900, I believe it was, my 4-year-old boy, George, coming running in the house and shouting, "Mama, the water is after me. Mama, the water is after me." Well, I said, "Oh, he just trying to scare somebody." But I went out to look, and sure enough, the water was racing right after him. It was muddy and reddish, and it was backing up Barton Springs. And somebody told us that the Austin Dam had busted that day. Since we've been free, I've been through the toughs. After slavery, I had to do work that many a man had to do. You can sure say that I've been through the toughs.